Go.
So we decided we don't want to take traditional notes, and since this is about innovations, we decided to film our discussion about R4D platforms and innovation platforms. And the example that we ended up selecting is an example from the Volta Basin. And Augustine will tell us a bit more about the actual example, what happened, and then we'll have a discussion on some of the dynamics behind it.
That's a challenge program on water and food. We have a project on the integrated management of rainwater in crop and livestock systems. And the main objective of the project is to identify, adapt, modify best rainwater management strategies. Because we are doing business in a different way, so we are not just focusing on physical components. So we adopted the innovation platform approach to engage different stakeholders involved. So as a starting point, we did the baseline studies, doing situation analysis, stakeholder analysis, and then we identified the key actors, in the rainwater management, in the community, in the Volta Basin, both in Ghana and in Burkina Faso. And then based on the baseline studies, we identify some constraints and opportunity to rainwater management in crop livestock systems in the Volta Basin. Then from there, we organize a meeting inviting all the key stakeholders, which include the producers or the farmers, the technical services like the extension, livestock, rainwater, water management people, and also it includes the NGO dealing especially in microfinance, and also it includes the development practitioners and big NGO like SMFA, involved. So when we invited them, then we first presented the results of the baseline studies, the priority issues that we came up with based on the baseline. This was discussed, but then they reprioritized.
And this would be a good point to cut in and hand the floor over to Acho, who will discuss a little bit about the shift in focus and the slippery nature of innovation platforms and innovation process.
You go with your mind made up about an issue, you might find that you are forcing people to do what is not on their priority list. And this links also into market-driven approaches, consultative approaches, and making sure that the priorities are set right. In this particular case that Augustine is talking about, we have a situation where the priority of the people align more with marketing their products rather than managing rainwater. And they just ran with this once they found that the project was flexible enough to let them do what was actually a felt need.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, you mentioned the project was flexible enough to let them do you think the project could have stopped them once it brought them together and the process was started? Do you think the originator maintains control over the platform, is the question I'm asking.
My answer to that would be that these people were thankful that a method had been brought to them that showed them how to go about addressing their felt needs in a collective type of fashion. It might be that they would have continued, to go with it, even if the project decided at that point in time that if not water, they would not get it.
Mm-hmm. What about issues of scale and taking it up to different dimensions?
I think first that we should say something about the demand-driven approach, which we can all agree on that is a good one. But where does this actually take us? If we look at this model here, we can see that in this particular case we had a multi-dimensional setup of the thing, and we also had a multi-stakeholder setup of this, and it was primarily working at the local and subnational level. Demand then, whose demand are we actually looking for in this? Are we looking for the demand of all stakeholders, or is it a demand-driven approach from the local level, which I think it's important to reach, of course, in the Humidtropics. But if we look at the overall objectives of the program, it must also go into the objectives of all stakeholders. And this is where the scale issues come in. So the demands of the local level is not necessarily the same demands as at the national or subnational level, and even less so maybe at the international level, or if we say research or development, research has its own objectives, and sometimes they differ from the development objectives. So the scale issues becomes a problem here. I think it's easy to run a demand-driven approach when it comes to the local level, and we can find a lot of good solutions for the local level, but the scaling issues come in here, and there we must look at the different levels and the different stakeholders involved.
Discussions are leading us with that the priorities of the researchers might not match with other stakeholders, or let me say the rural people in the action sites where we are going to. So we should have an open mind for innovations on the R4D platform.